Hello, habari gani? My name is Haikaeli Gideon, an arts and health practitioner and curator from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. In this video, I'm sharing my learnings from my project, which is titled Tembea Ujifunze. So Tembea Ujifunze roughly translates to travel and learn. This project was supported by the British Council UK as part of a follow-up fund from the Liverpool Biennale Curators Connect program. So stay tuned as I share what the project entails and why exactly I did it. Let's dive in. One way we learn is through seeing and tapping into other people's experiences, mistakes, and adapting other people's best practices. This project was grounded in the belief that exposure fosters growth and we don't have to figure out everything on our own. We can learn how other people have solved similar challenges to the ones that we have. So I had 4 aims, things that I wanted to learn and explore from the UK arts and cultural scene. And to do this, I visited over 20 art centers, museums, galleries, and exhibitions. For most of us, our productivity is going to decline as we age, and that is artist inclusive. So I wanted to learn how can artists capitalize on their current work to ensure their future even when they decide to retire. And one way they can do this is making products. So how can they do that? I wanted to learn from the UK arts and culture scene. How are they solving the sustainability equation of the artist career? And closely tied to that is how are they establishing sustainable art residency. Initially, I was so focused on art residencies, but over the project, my thinking changed to more of like art hubs, art systems, art platforms, or any other places that would allow artists to experiment and innovate, to come together and tinker, try out their ideas in a place where they can get feedback and then launch those ideas to the mass. And also I wanted to share best practices from Tanzania and learn from best practices from the UK and allow cross collaboration, cross pollinating between those two places, and engage with artists, art centers, and just at the end of the project, not having only wandered around, but having collaborated with other curators, collaborated with other artists, and also just add my wisdom in the general fabric. Visit, I picked a couple of places that really inspired me and I really enjoyed. So for example, I went to Taipab, which is an arts and community place where all arts and markets are under one roof. I really enjoyed the overall atmosphere because the way the place is set up is, think of a huge mall and all that you find inside is different art vendors, galleries, jewel makers, tailors, painters, exhibiting gallery, and food courts, of course. Everybody loves food. So you get to interact with a diverse range of art and artists, and you can also buy from the work that they're making. What I really liked about their model is that it makes art accessible to the everyday person. It makes anyone who likes art, or even somebody who just went there maybe to get food, they can also get to maybe see something that they might be interested to take a look at it more. And this really stood out to me because I think right now we have made art very exclusive to the elites, to the upper class, and not an everyday person. And art in most cases is not accessible to an everyday person, and I think we have to go back to that model. Another place which I really enjoyed and learned a lot from the visit was the Glen Vivian Art Gallery in Swansea, Wales. It was also very close to where I was living, and I could just go and pop by. They have an art gallery, some permanent exhibition which were part of the late Richard Glen Vivian collection. And also they had a shop and a place where you can just go and chill and do your work from the place. What I really enjoyed the time when I visited, I found a couple products from an artist called Carlos Bunga. And this artist had exhibited earlier in 2021. The time when I was doing this project was 2024. But in their shop, they had some of his products from his exhibition. They had tote bags that had some of his artworks, and they also had a coloring book. They also had a coloring book from that exhibition he did in 2021, and I get a chance to get a glimpse of it in 2024. So you can see that his work, even though he's no longer exhibiting at the gallery, people still get a chance to enjoy. Another third place which also I really enjoyed was the Cinema and Co. This is an independent cinema that also has a cafe, so people can just go organize film screenings, and they host these different filmmakers that come in together, show their films to the community, and also get feedback. People can get to ask questions, and they also have these different activities that are focused on the community. What I really like also about this was that thing that it also becomes a place where artists can get to engage with the community, because art without the community is like you're having a show without an audience. Yeah, I understand in some cases you may want to make art for yourself, but in some of the arts, or most of the art that we are making it so we can share it with other people. So once you're a filmmaker and you get to show your film, people get to ask you questions, they share feedback with you. That is how you can also learn, and also you can get to make even more artistic products that can really like ring to the community that you're trying to talk to. So these are just highlights, just general highlights of these 3 places that I've visited. And on the next slide, I've shared other 3 places as it relates to my initially 4 core aims of the things that I wanted to explore in the UK arts and culture scene. Moving on to other places I visited, I also visited the British Museum in London, which has a comprehensive collection of arts and artifacts from all over the world. I think my favorite was the monuments and artifacts from Egypt. And I think what really stood out to me was the fact that under this one roof, you could learn different things about different cultures. Of course, we can talk a bit more. It's not a very beautiful history of how some of the things got into the museum. I think that's a discussion for another day. But I think as the museum itself can act as a resource where artists can take a glimpse of all these different art and artifacts, they can use the material in conceptualization to make new work from reinterpreting what our forefathers had been doing, and also just to make work that talks about a certain historic period and that. And also they had a couple of programs that they were hosting. They had a cafe, they had a shop where again they're selling all these like different products that people can buy and go home with them. So I think that was a different way on how art is being made accessible, how in a certain way we still having a chance to revisit what the previous generation was doing through what they have left. I think museums kind of like bring a very different and distinct dynamic, and especially because of these places I visited a mix of public owned spaces, privately owned spaces, and all of them have very different dynamics on how they are run and how they impact both the artist and the community around. But I think that is such a huge topic that I would like to unpack. I enjoyed insanely my visit to the Balloon Museum. So this is a traveling exhibition that is dedicated to inflatable art installations. I will share a separate video on that trip where I went to the Balloon Museum. And what I really loved about this was that whenever we do an exhibition in a gallery is do not touch this, don't put your hand here, don't do that. But through this experience, I had a multi-sensory experience. You get to hear, you get to touch, you get to feel, and it was just a very different way on how one can interact with art. And also the format that it's an exhibition, and then you get in, you pay your entry fee, and you just get to roam around. There's some cafe. There was a cafe in there that was selling some drinks. There was some sort of like a curio shop or that was selling different like art products from the museum, from the balloon museum. So it was a different way on how they have set up this whole experience, and how as a person I got to interact with it. And one thing for sure, I went to the exhibition alone, but it was very family friendly, and I could see how other families, how their children were enjoying, and it also invoked a sense of childhood, a sense of play, a sense of joy that was very, very intoxicating. I think I would definitely be going to another balloon museum exhibition should it come to Dar es Salaam, Tanzania in the future. My last highlight would be the one that I visited Sherlock Holmes Museum. I'm a big fan of Sherlock Holmes, the Sherlock Holmes stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And what really stood up for me was the fact that those were literally works. And then somebody thought that there are many people who love Sherlock Holmes and Watson, and he's almost like immortalized. People, sometimes you read the books and you almost feel as though Sherlock Holmes was like a real person and he lived in 221 B Baker Street, like he was bones and flesh. And then they decided to turn that story into an exhibition. I was just thinking, how many other literary works that we could copy or look at this model and do something similar or adapt it to our context. And then you get to go to the museum, you get to see the rooms of where Sherlock and Watson were living, you get to see some of the reincarnation. They've made like bust sculptures of some of the villains that Sherlock Holmes tackled with. And also they had a shop dedicated to this, to Sherlock Holmes, like different trinkets, like a violin that he used to play, like key holders, red buses tapping into the London culture, tote bags, and a multitude of other different products. So through the experience, I got to learn about a lot of things, actionable insights on how maybe as a curator I can host more experiences, how can I support artists sustainably, and also I got to do my research in the arts and health scene, collaborating with 5 artists from the UK and 5 from Tanzania. I will share that when my research is fully published. And I also got to connect Tanzanian artists to the UK, and also get to learn from other artists and curators in the UK. So my key takeaways would be, first is the importance of government policies and financing within the arts. What I have learned in the UK, the arts and cultural scene are heavily financed by the government, but we're not slowly behind. Thanks to our Honorable President Samia Suluhu Hassan, we now have the Art Fund, which support artists to run their operations and do their different artistic projects. And on top of that, we need other people who, beyond the government, to support artists, whether it's like wealthy families, foundation, and embassies. And also, most importantly, as artists, we need to create a strong bond with the community, because once the community understand and appreciate the work that we're doing, they are pretty much going to support in different. My special thanks goes to the UK British Council and the Tanzania British Council for making this project a reality, and I look forward to implement all the things that I've learned. Thank you. Let's connect. Bye.